We have new information about the deadly shooting of a pregnant woman in Tallahassee yesterday. Arrest papers say she was the suspect's girlfriend. Jakari Martin Chagrin told investigators that he and Maya Johnson were arguing at their home on River Breeze Lane. He said he grabbed some of his belongings and was trying to leave when the gun went off. He claims the gun was not in his hand, but pinned against his body. The gunshot killed Johnson and her unborn child. Martin Chagrin is facing 2 counts of manslaughter.
The call came in just after 9 p.m. Jakari Martin Chagrin was frantic. He told the 911 operator his girlfriend had been shot. She was on the floor, bleeding and unresponsive, and he was driving her to the hospital himself. Paramedics met him in the parking lot. They rushed Maya inside, but there was nothing they could do. She was already gone. Maya Johnson, just 26 years old, was dead, shot once in the chest. She was a mother of 2 and 9 weeks pregnant. But it all started because Maya checked Jakari's phone. She saw he'd liked another woman's bikini photo on Instagram, a woman he used to talk to. 1 second, she was confronting the man she thought she loved. The next, she was gone. Maya had spent months worrying about whether she could trust him, and now the answer was final. The story of a man who said he loved her until he killed her. This is what happens when love turns lethal. Before she became a headline, before her name trended with words like murder and pregnancy, Maya Johnson was just a girl trying to build a life for herself and her children. She was born on August 29, 1998, and raised between the cold streets of Chicago and the warm humidity of Florida. Her roots were split between 2 very different worlds, but she eventually found stability in Tallahassee, the place she would later call home, and the place where her life would tragically end. Maya was one of 7 siblings, and her world revolved around family. She wasn't just close to her mother, she was tethered to her. They talked every day, shared everything, and leaned on each other through life's chaos. Her siblings often described her as the glue that kept them together, the one who remembered birthdays, organized get-togethers, and always showed up. But Maya wasn't just family-oriented. She was fiercely independent. From a young age, she had a natural hustle in her. She refused to rely on anyone else to get where she wanted to go. So she carved out her own lane, juggling multiple income streams to support her kids. She was a lash tech, working out of her apartment to make women feel beautiful. She ran a side hustle selling men's fashion, shoes, streetwear, whatever moved. And she was a content creator, documenting her day-to-day life on TikTok and Instagram with energy that pulled people in. People described Maya as joyful, vibrant, and always on the move. Her smile was wide, her voice was soft, and her spirit was warm. She had that rare ability to be fully transparent without ever sounding like she was complaining. Her social media was an open book. She didn't fake perfection. She posted about the mess, the stress, the bills, the grind. She talked openly about what it was like raising 2 young boys on her own. First Caden, born in 2018, and then DJ, born in 2019. After becoming a mom, her identity shifted almost overnight. Her Facebook reads, Caden Mova. Motherhood became her mission. Every move she made, every dollar she earned, every post she shared was for her boys. And while she was proud of her independence, she never pretended it was easy. And even through the struggle, Maya was winning. In early 2024, she reached a milestone that made her burst with pride. She posted about getting a new house, a place she could finally call her own, a safe space for her and her kids. However, Maya often spoke about loneliness, the quiet moments after her kids fell asleep, the longing for a partner who wouldn't just play a role, but would stay. Because as much as she loved being on her own, Maya still wanted to be loved. She wanted safety, stability, and a man who wouldn't lie or cheat or disappear. Someone who'd take care of her the way she took care of everyone else. So when Jakari Martin Chagrin came into her life, charming, attentive, and saying all the right things, Maya let herself hope. She let her guard down. But what she didn't know was that Jakari wasn't there to build with her. He was the beginning of the end. Maya Johnson met Jakari Martin Chagrin roughly 3 years before her death. And in the beginning, it looked like what she had always hoped for. Someone calm, someone consistent, someone who didn't mind that she came with responsibilities. Jacare was 22 at the time Maya died, which meant he was just a teenager when they met, and she was already a mother of two. But despite the age difference and the pressure of Maya's life, he stepped in quickly. He worked at a warehouse, not glamorous, but steady, and he gave off the impression of someone with drive. Someone who, like Maya, had come from struggle and was trying to build something better. And at first, he did the things that made her believe he was serious. He moved in with her at the house on River Breeze Lane in Tallahassee. But what stood out most wasn't what Maya showed. It was what she didn't. She never posted Jacare by name, never tagged him, and never said, "This is my man." And for someone who was as open as Maya, someone who documented her life down to her exhaustion and joy, that silence said everything. Because behind the filtered peace and matching pajamas was a relationship that had already begun to rot. Over time, Maya's posts started to shift in tone. She would write cryptic captions about loyalty. She joked about checking phones while boyfriends were asleep. She shared memes about being disrespected, about being lied to, about giving chances that weren't deserved. It wasn't long before those jokes turned into real concern. She started confronting Jacare about other women. She accused him of cheating. She'd check his phone constantly. And although she never confirmed it publicly, her sister later said it plainly. Maya did not trust him. And according to family members, arguments between them weren't just verbal. They became physical. Maya told people that Jacare had choked her during one of their fights. She said she had to beg him to let her breathe. She was scared, but she was also stuck. Because by the time the violence started, he was already in her house, already part of her children's lives, already wrapped into the daily rhythm of motherhood and survival. And like many women in her position, Maya tried to hold it together, even when it was breaking her down. But in the background, the same fights kept happening. The same distrust kept building. And Jacare, once the quiet, helpful boyfriend, had started changing too. He became more possessive, more reactive, and less patient. And Maya, the girl who had built a brand on strength and vulnerability, started sounding tired, like she had reached her emotional limit, but didn't know how to climb out of it. She still believed in love, but she didn't know that this one had already turned lethal. By mid-2024, Maya discovered she was pregnant again, and the news hit her like a wave of mixed emotions. She loved her children fiercely, but this time, doubt crept in. Records from Planned Parenthood later suggested she was seriously considering abortion. There was no public statement from Maya herself, but the documents painted a private picture of a woman wrestling with an impossible choice. Just one day before the tragedy, on October 21st, 2024, Maya made a social media post that caught some attention. She wrote publicly that she didn't want any more kids, signaling a clear decision or at least a strong feeling about her pregnancy. Then came October 22nd, the day that would change everything. That morning, Maya discovered something that shook her to the core. Jacare had liked a bikini photo posted by one of his exes on social media. It might seem small, but to Maya, it was the final straw. A sign of disrespect and betrayal she could no longer ignore. So when Jacare came home that day, Maya confronted him immediately. Her voice was sharp, her eyes searching for answers. She grabbed his phone and went through it. She needed to confirm what she already suspected, that this was not a one-time mistake, but a pattern of disrespect and disregard for her feelings. Jacare, however, dismissed it with chilling ease. "It's just a like," he said, as if the simplicity of the words could erase the hurt. But it didn't. The tension between them ignited instantly, the argument escalating quickly from frustration to anger. In the middle of the fight, Maya texted her sister, a brief message that captured the storm she was caught in. "We're fighting again." However, the argument between Maya and Jacare didn't stay quiet for long. It escalated rapidly, moving through the rooms of their home while their two young sons were nearby, trapped in the middle of a conflict they couldn't understand. The battle carried on, weaving through the house, until it finally ended in the kitchen, an intense and claustrophobic space where tempers flared the most. Then, without warning, a loud gunshot shattered the fragile silence, piercing the walls and catching the attention of neighbors who heard the sudden noise and feared the worst. Maya collapsed to the floor, struck by a single bullet that brought the heated confrontation to a deadly halt. Jacare, stunned and panicked, immediately called 911. His voice trembled as he explained what had happened, claiming Maya had been shot and that he was rushing her to the hospital himself. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but despite their efforts, both Maya and the unborn child she carried were declared dead at the hospital. The loss was devastating. 2 lives, 1 young mother and her unborn baby, gone in an instant. Jacare was taken into custody without resistance, but as police and investigators sifted through the chaotic scene and pieced together the timeline, a question hung heavily in the air. Was this a tragic accident or a deliberate act of murder? That question would fuel weeks of investigation and speculation, but for now, the immediate reality was clear. Maya Johnson was dead, and the community was left searching for answers in the wake of a violent, heartbreaking end. Jacare's version of the events came quickly and seemed designed to shift blame away from himself. He told police that Maya had confronted him aggressively, and that he had tried to walk away to defuse the situation. However, according to him, Maya attacked him suddenly, forcing him to defend himself. He claimed the gun had been wedged under his arm the entire time, and that it discharged purely by accident during the struggle. This story painted a picture of a chaotic fight, where tragedy struck without clear intent. But the police were not convinced. They immediately began to test his account, starting with a reenactment using a toy gun that matched the make and model of the real weapon. What they found was troubling for Jacare's story. The trigger on the actual gun required deliberate pressure to fire. It simply could not have gone off accidentally just because it was tucked under an arm. And then there was the bullet's trajectory. For Maya to have been shot where she was, Jacare would have needed to be much closer than he described. His version of events didn't align with the physical evidence. Maya was shorter than Jacare by several inches, standing around 5 feet 4 inches, while he was closer to 6 feet tall. This height difference meant that for Maya to be hit where she was, Jacare would have had to be aiming or holding the gun in a way that didn't align with his claim of an accidental discharge. Moreover, the gun itself showed no signs of obstruction or malfunction that could explain an accidental discharge. This raised further doubts about his claim of an unintended shot. Jacare also had no injuries consistent with being attacked, no bruises, scratches, or defensive wounds, and there was no evidence the gun casing had struck him during the incident, which would be expected if the gun had fired while wedged under his arm. Faced with mounting contradictions, Jacare eventually admitted to previous abusive behavior toward Maya. He confessed to choking her on at least one occasion and hiding her phones, attempting to control and isolate her. Neighbors painted a grim picture as well, confirming that loud, intense arguments were common in the household, especially on weekends when tempers flared the most. Several people recalled hearing fights and shouting matches regularly, painting a backdrop of ongoing conflict. Records showed that police had been called to their home multiple times in the 6 months leading up to Maya's death, responding to domestic disturbance reports. Each time, the situation was tense, but no charges stuck or a lasting intervention occurred. All of this combined to build a troubling narrative of a relationship marked by control, fear, and escalating violence, one that ended in the ultimate tragedy. But that's not all. Police also turned their attention to the most vulnerable witnesses in the house, Maya's 2 young sons, Caden and DJ. The boys were present during the violent encounter, though it remained unclear exactly what they had seen or heard in those terrifying moments. Despite their young age and the trauma they had endured, they both confirmed one chilling fact: Jacare had shot their mother. Their statements became crucial pieces of evidence, adding weight to the prosecution's case. The children's words helped paint a picture of what had happened inside the home, giving investigators insights that no other witness could provide. However, the legal battle was far from straightforward. Prosecutors faced a difficult challenge, as Jacare's actions after the shooting complicated the narrative. He had called 911 himself and rushed Maya to the hospital, seemingly trying to save her life. This raised questions about his intent. Was it murder, or had it been a tragic accident? The conflicting evidence from the children's testimony and Jacare's apparent attempts to help Maya created tension in the courtroom and among those following the case. And so, despite the mounting proof, Prosecutors had to carefully navigate these complexities to build a solid case. So, on October 27, 2024, just days after Maya's tragic death, the Tallahassee State Attorney's Office formally charged Jacare Martin Shugren with 2 counts of manslaughter, along with a charge for unlawful possession of a firearm. The courtroom was tense as Jacare entered a plea of not guilty, firmly denying any intentional wrongdoing. However, the judge denied bail, citing the severity of the case and potential risk factors, meaning Jacare would remain in custody while awaiting trial. Meanwhile, the community's grief was intense. Maya had been more than just a victim. She was a beloved mother, sister, and friend whose vibrant spirit had touched many. To honor her memory, friends and strangers alike gathered for a candlelight vigil. The quiet streets filled with soft candle glows and heartfelt prayers, as those who knew her tried to make sense of the loss that shook their neighborhood. And at the center of the community's efforts stood Maya's sister, who channeled her sorrow into action by launching a GoFundMe campaign. The goal was clear: to raise over $80,000 to support Maya's 2 young sons, ensuring they would have a secure future despite the devastation they had endured. Donations poured in from all corners, a testament to the deep impact Maya had on those around her, and the collective desire to protect the children left behind. This outpouring of support underscored a painful truth. While justice would take its course in the courtroom, the healing for Maya's family and community was just beginning. But Maya's story, sadly, was far from unique. According to recent studies, nearly 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men will experience severe physical violence from an intimate partner at some point in their lives. Every year, countless families are torn apart by domestic violence, a pattern that often escalates quietly, hidden behind closed doors. Experts warn that the warning signs, jealousy, controlling behavior, prior abuse, are frequently overlooked or dismissed, leaving victims trapped in cycles of violence they cannot escape. Maya's death stands as a heartbreaking reminder of what happens when those red flags are ignored or unseen. 3 children lost a future, 2 lost a mother, and 1 was never born. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, don't wait. Speak up, reach out, and help can save lives before it's too late. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to support more in-depth true crime stories that matter. And let us know in the comments, what warning signs do you think are most often missed in cases like this? Your voice matters.